Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael Williams with Absolute Volleyball Academy of Texas, and I'm so pleased to bring to you another edition of our AVA podcast. And this episode's special guest is Lauren Ellison, who is in charge of administration, travel, and recruiting director, as well as head coach for 16 Rocks at Absolute Volleyball Academy of Texas. Lauren, how are you? And thank you for joining us.
Good, thank you. I'm excited.
Good, yeah. We're so thrilled to have you. But before we get started, we want to send our thoughts and our prayers out to everyone in the local community and beyond that is still dealing with the effects of Hurricane Harvey. It was just a tough event that we felt here locally. Fortunately, the facility was not impacted, but we have so many families that are still kind of putting the pieces back together and moving forward. So that being said, I want to just check with you to see how you are doing and how your family did during Hurricane Harvey, which was not long ago at all.
Yeah, no, our home, I actually live pretty far away from AVA, so where I'm located, we didn't get a lot of the, brunt of the storm, so that was really good for us. My father-in-law had to be evacuated from his home, but thankfully his home was okay, so we're doing well and just trying to help out anyone that we can in the process, so.
Good. And that being said, too, I just also want to mention to everyone, if there are families or folks that are affected that do still need help, our role is to support the community, and we're here to do that any way possibly that we can. So please, if you do need assistance, our email is monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that is info@avatexas.com. And we'll do our best to make sure that you receive the resources and information that you need to move forward. So let's kind of jump into it, Lauren. How long have you been with us at AVA? I feel like it's such a long time, but just for those of our AVA family that may not be aware, about how long have you been with AVA?
I've been here about 5 years, I believe. It's either going on 5 or going on 6. Not totally positive. But yeah, 5 or 6 years.
Well, I can say that you're always smiling and just always so full of energy, and you wear so many hats, and it's around the clock role that we do. We do it all for the kids and for our athletes. So we don't think about it, but I do know that you're always so present when you're here. And even when you're not here, your presence is felt in as far as all the good things that you do for our athletes. So let's talk about a little bit some of your roles and responsibilities. Administration, can you just give us a quick overview of what that entails?
Yeah, so the administration, I help a lot with some of the website stuff, with things that have to go out as far as newsletters or things that people need to be knowing about coming in the few weeks or months. I enter our teams into tournaments. I help Katie and Jerry with pretty much anything administrative wise that they need, as far as like I said, emails, or the list goes on and on. Team rosters, coaches, anything. It's kind of a never-ending list.
Right. Everything that we need to keep AVA
yes.
As one of the best volleyball organizations in the country, and moving forward from all of the many facets of club season, working with our younger players, working with outdoor, sand, you name it. And
yes.
It's
a big umbrella.
A full year
yep.
List of activities. But nonetheless, again, I will point out how big you're smiling, mentioning all of that work that is on your plate. So you handle it all so gracefully.
Thank you.
And it makes a huge impact in what we do.
Thank you.
So looking back from where you are now to, kind of your beginnings, what would you say were some of the bigger hurdles that you had to overcome to really be in the position that you're in?
Well, starting out, I did not start out with volleyball like, many of the kids nowadays do. I was a gymnast for the first half of my life, doing that, like a job, 35 hours a week. I quickly became too tall for that sport and had to segue into another sport come in 8th grade. And so that's kind of when I started, and it was not pretty, to say the least. So I started a lot later than many people. The norm back in the day when I was playing was not, you needed to start volleyball in 5th and 6th grade.
Right.
So
That's a good point.
I was, a little bit behind the curve of some of the people that had been playing for a few years. And so I definitely felt a little intimidated at, what everybody was able to do when, 8th grade rolled around. So I think the biggest thing was I'm such a competitor, and not being one of the best, really ate at me. So I had a good friend that, thank God for her, asked me to come to her club volleyball tryouts one night, and I had no idea what it was. And I started doing that and went into high school and was dead set on being on varsity as soon as I could. So I guess going through, feeling like I was behind the curve was a big one, especially in, the volleyball world. And I think that's what helps me a lot to relate to a lot of kids that we have now is, you don't have to start out amazing, and no one ever does. There's no way. It's just, there's just too much of the sport to learn to be able to start out amazing. So I think that having experienced that myself firsthand, and then having that help me with how I coach these kids, is to know that it's not going to be an overnight thing for anybody, but if they put the work in, then they'll be able to do it. So
yeah, and you're definitely a testimony to that. And just for those everyone out there that may not have the opportunity to look at your coaching profile that is posted, you mentioned high school pretty quickly, but it wasn't just any high school. It wasn't just any high school team. Can you elaborate just a little bit on the high school and the accomplishments of that team during your tenure there?
Yeah. So I went to College Park High School in the Woodlands. When I was there, we got up, I think, as high as a number 3 or so ranking in the state. I played on a team with some really awesome girls and very, very good talent. Our coach was amazing. We loved her. We had just such a great experience. We went a few rounds deep in the playoffs every year that I was there, so that was always a lot of fun. And the thing that was so cool about it for us was that our school was brand new. It was, by the time I got into high school, the school had been around for just 1 year. So for us to be able to really start that program and kind of turn it into even what it is today, they're doing well every year. So it was a lot of fun.
And I'll just throw the term powerhouse out there.
Yes, we were. It was, it's definitely not a one-man sport by any means. We just had so many kids that were so dedicated and we just wanted the same things, and we were all really, looking forward to helping each other achieve our goals. And it was, of course, every year I think, as most high school programs would say, is to go to state. So, unfortunately it didn't happen for us. It doesn't happen for a lot of really good teams, but, it was a really great experience for sure.
And individually, you were in the USA Volleyball pipeline.
Yes.
And as well, you also traveled overseas and played volleyball, and I think London, Paris, France, Switzerland.
Yes. Yeah, I got to do that for one summer going into my sophomore year of high school, which was a blast. We got to play a few of their national teams over there. I got some training from some international coaches, and it was amazing just to see, beyond just the culture that everyone else lives outside of, what I've been used to, just to see how things are different in the volleyball world, yet it was so similar in many ways that it was a great experience. Learned a lot, met a lot of awesome people. So it was a really, really good time.
Okay. And can you mention just quickly also your college choice and college career?
Yes. So I went to Nichols State in Louisiana. It still is. It's in the Southland Conference. I played there my freshman year, and I kind of had a little bit of a different experience than a lot of athletes do. And I think that's also kind of helps me with my recruiting. The role here at AVA was my experience was different in the sense of the coach that had recruited me ended up being released right before I went in, and so it changed a lot of things for a lot of people, and it was definitely a good learning experience. But I had a good time. I had great teammates, so that also made it a good thing. But yeah, it was very different than I had expected it to be. So
yeah, that experience can be nerve-wracking. It can be it can cause someone to be unsure of their decision. So that's also a good testament, and it helps you, like you said, in the recruiting process, educating our athletes, to have confidence in your skills, kind of reflect back on all that you've learned, lean on your coaches, your recruiting director, your family, just to encourage you and reassure you that you did make the right decision.
Absolutely.
But it all comes back to just believing in yourself.
Yes.
Good. So what's the best advice someone ever gave you about playing at the next level?
I think I was blessed with a lot of great coaches that were very insightful into helping me with a lot of things throughout my playing career. One of the things actually came from my mom, who made it always a point, to stress academics to me. And to be totally upfront, I did not focus on academics. I never felt like a really studious person. So it was a little bit more of a struggle for me than, a lot of people. And that's okay. I've learned that a lot of people struggle with that same thing. But the best advice that I got was from her in the fact of saying, you are a student athlete, and the student comes before the athlete. And if you don't take care of the student part, then you can't be the athlete part. And, I think that was something that, of course, at the time I was, 16 through 19 years old, and I didn't want to listen to my mom, but moms know all. They always know.
They do.
So it was one of those things that I really use with our athletes here, is stressing that, as great of an athlete as you are, or you may not be, the most God-given talent of an athlete, you may have to work a little bit harder, but if you can take care of your grades, then that's going to make, the road that you're on so much easier. So.
Right. Yeah, and I also share with athletes, you don't want academics to get in the way of you doing what you really love to do.
Absolutely.
They go hand in hand. I think that same compassion and fire that athletes show on the volleyball court, each one of them has that same capability or same ability to show that fire in the classroom. Unfortunately, volleyball, it is a great sport, but it's how much can the body take over the years? For sure,
yeah. And what's such an important thing too that my mom also said is, after volleyball's over, because one day, unfortunately, that comes for all of us, is what will you have after your career is done with? And it's got to go back to your degree, and where you get your degree from is important, and making sure that you get that degree is important. We live in a day and age where not everybody has it and not everybody needs it, but the majority of the population, especially here and what everyone aspires to do, they need that. So it's an important thing to look at all aspects, beyond just volleyball, because like I said, one day, unfortunately, it will have to end.
So we discussed, we touched upon administration. We also touched upon recruiting a little bit. We're going to go back to that. But I also want to kind of circle back to the travel component of your responsibilities, because that's so important. I mean, we are one of the best clubs in the country. We travel across the country to different events that are all the best events. And can you talk a little bit how you help all the parents and players and coaches kind of get prepared and get organized and kind of be there?
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff that I do with travel, I handle mostly with getting hotel blocks set up for everybody. We have like you said, with the tournaments that we go to, they're so big, and we usually do such a great job at tournaments every year that we are a nationally recognized club. So that helps us with getting better room blocks at tournaments. Each tournament kind of has their own setup for, what is required. There's state of plays, there's state of safe tournaments, and they're all different. So really being able to differentiate between the two so that I can relay that information to the parents when they're booking, their hotels or flights or anything like that, so that everyone can be prepared for really any scenario, and what we've got going on for playing times and everything. It's just that's one of those big umbrellas too.
From a player perspective, what advice would you give to players that may be new to travel this coming year, on kind of how to deal with flying and a new city, not knowing the teams as far as playing teams from other states? How do you translate that to letting a player know what they need to do to focus?
Yeah, well, I think a big thing is, anybody can beat anybody on any given day. It's who's going to show up and who's going to, work their butts off and when the moment happens. So, I know I was one of those players, and I've had a lot of players that I've coached in the past that just get very nervous, especially in those situations when they're traveling out of town. Like you said, they don't know who they're going to be playing. But, it really shouldn't matter who they're going to be playing. They need to, just play the game that they know that they've trained so hard for, trust that their coaching and training that they've had is going to supply them with the success that, that they'll need and that they want. As far as, when they get to the tournaments, always fueling your body with good proteins, carb up. Some people love to go and have a pasta night as a team, and that's awesome. And really a super, super important one is making sure they're getting adequate amounts of sleep.
Yes.
So many coaches, I'm one of them, and club-wide, we have a curfew on everybody. So, some coaches like to make it a little bit earlier. I'm one of those coaches because I appreciate my sleep, and I know these kids need it too. So, making sure that they get a good night's rest and they feel relaxed, and especially for those 3-4 day tournaments that we have, especially towards the end of the season when our bodies are getting exhausted and we're feeling worn out, having ice baths, which I know, a lot of my kids will. It's a fun thing, but it's cold. It's an ice bath,
Yes.
and so it's a very dramatic event, but it helps so much with the recovery and, being able to make sure that our bodies are ready to go for what our team needs of us is really of utmost importance.
Yeah, those are all really good points, and I can validate those, that they sleep, diet, taking care of your body.
Mm-hmm.
If you do all those things, you will be in a position to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And what more can you ask for?
Yeah.
To be available, to be injury free, and then also to have confidence, and then be in a position to be successful.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
With regards to recruiting and the kind of the overall landscape of recruiting, in your time, what would you say has changed over the last few years?
I feel like the biggest thing that's changed is how early people are starting to look at schools and even commit to schools and receive offers.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that a lot of people end up feeling a lot of pressure into feeling that they're, behind the curve, or that they need to be here or there, but the biggest thing is that, everyone is on a different recruiting path, and yes, there's going to be kids that are going to be committing as freshmen or sophomores in high school, some even in 8th grade, that's been done across the nation before too.
Yeah.
But, it's just, there's going to be a different path for everybody. And I think that although the new norm is to start committing earlier, it's not necessarily, it's not the end all be all. So.
And we at AVA, we have a very personal approach to recruiting. Can you speak to a little bit of that approach and also some of the tools that we have available to our athletes?
Yeah, so we use a platform called Sports Recruits. This is going to be our second year using it, and I just love them. It's the most central location for our athletes to be able to contact college coaches, which, again, back in my day, I had to go from website to website and look in the staff directory and find this contact information that sometimes was never there. Mm-hmm. So it really helps our athletes streamline their communication process. Recruiting so much nowadays is all about marketing and how you market yourself and what schools you target and the information that you're putting out to everybody. So using Sports Recruits like we do really, really helps our kids know, kind of what they're looking for in a college and also what they feel is important versus what is actually important. So it provides them, a few different outlets to, I think, be more informed than, recruiting just 10 years ago. We also try to make sure that, I have meetings for recruiting, every week for, one reason or another. I'm always open. My phone is always on. I will answer as soon as I can all the time. So, just knowing that these athletes and their parents have an open line to me at all times. Like I said, my cell phone is buzzing all the time.
Right.
So, I think that should help and does help a lot of people knowing that they've got someone here in me, plus all the other staff that we have here. That is, our goal is if you want to play in college, we will help you find that place. So there's a home for everyone. We'll find it.
Yes, and like you mentioned, Absolute Volleyball Academy, we are nationally recognized. So our athletes, our expectations are high.
Yes.
When they get to college, expectations are high just because they played at AVA. But I don't think we would have it any other way. I mean, we pride ourselves on preparing our athletes not just to play in college, but to really be successful young adults.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have such a good relationship with so many college coaches across the nation that it really it helps our kids so much because of the relationships that we have. We're able to build those pipelines and those modes of communication where we really can talk to these coaches and figure out what it is that they're wanting these athletes to be able to do by the time they get to college, or what they want us to start focusing on, so that when they get to their schools and they're playing for them, they don't feel like they're behind the curve, because they know that at AVA they're getting the training that they so desperately want in their athletes that they're investing so much money in.
I agree. Also, let's talk a little bit about social media, using it the right way, the advantages of that, and also the disadvantages in some situations using it the wrong way from an athlete perspective.
Yeah. I mean, social media is so important nowadays. It's crazy how much, just even by the year it changes. The best thing that I can say is, go to these college Twitter accounts or Facebook accounts or, anything that they have, their Instagram accounts. Nowadays, these schools are tagging these athletes and tagging their profiles. And so it's not even, and this wasn't something that was done even 3 years ago, is these, they're on this platform that so many people are looking up to them that they don't even know about. And there's people that are trying to follow them and looking at everything that they're doing on social media that, could be a 4-year-old and 10-year-old. I mean, they have no idea. And so, but the fact that I think these colleges are now tagging these athletes is a good thing, because it's helping keep them more accountable to know that, your platform is increasing. And with the role that you're getting, you're so blessed to be able to play in college that there's so many people that look up to you. So you need to make sure that, what you're posting is appropriate and really on track with what, your school and your program and your values are, and I understand being able to get caught up in the hype of, being with what our friends are doing and that sort of thing. And definitely I don't want to take, being a kid away from anybody by any means, but it's definitely something that our athletes are on a different, path and a different wavelength than, a lot of their peers, which is the power that they get is huge. And, as kids, they don't necessarily understand that or really see the full spectrum of that, but it's huge. So it's important to make sure that they're putting things out there that really respect their values and their beliefs, and making sure that they're not doing anything that could jeopardize, such an important role that they have.
Right. So, and also kind of, if you can say the average of what you would estimate a 4-year college scholarship to be worth.
I mean, it can range anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000. So, I mean, that's a lot of money that they're investing in somebody. They don't want kids that are gonna come in and cause a hiccup for something that's so easily avoidable. They want someone that they're investing in that they know is going to be 100% bought into their program, their goals, their values and beliefs, and what they want, that they don't want to take a risk on someone who has no problem posting photos of doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Correct. So it's really important. It's some heavy stuff, but it's just fact of life and just how things, especially in recruiting world and volleyball world, has gone. So
right. And also you and I partner along with the other AVA staff folks we do monitor social media that our athletes use.
Yep.
We encourage model behavior, and if there's some behavior that we see that needs to be corrected, we take those steps as well. And we partner with again AVA staff, and we'll work with their coach, and then the coach will work with that parent and bring in the athlete and kind of take those steps to correcting those behaviors.
Absolutely. And it's sometimes, kids feel like it's a harmless thing, but it's just giving them a different perspective is really what the most important thing is. We have great kids at AVA. We really haven't had to deal with a whole lot of, inappropriate things being posted on, Snapchat, Instagram, or anything like that. But it does happen on occasion. People slip because we're human, but, it happens. But I think that for the most part, everyone has done a really great job. But, like you said, we also have a lot of people monitoring them. Even if they feel like it's private, there's ways that I can get in, that other people can get in, college coaches can get in. I've even had college coaches have their, players request friendships, on the social media platforms with their prospective student athletes. So, there's ways that, kids can't even begin to imagine. So it's important that we help make sure that they're, keeping those values at, top notch.
Right. And we also, so our players often go on to pursue higher degrees.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want them to be disqualified from those opportunities, and also into the workplace.
Absolutely.
After they've graduated, either with a 4-year degree or advanced degrees, employers also scrutinize social media activity,
mm-hmm.
and they can go back as long as they wish to go back.
Yep.
To kind of see what footprint is out there.
Yeah, because that's the thing is, once it's out there, it's out there. It doesn't go away. Contrary to Snapchat beliefs, it does not go away. There's just too much at stake in your immediate life and your future life. It's just not worth it.
And also, just a high level, we do plan to follow up with a future time with you on this. But can you speak really quickly on our AVA recruiting goals for the coming 2017-2018 season?
Yes. So our goals, and they stay pretty similar year after year. Our goals are, if we have an athlete that wants to play in college, we want to help them get there. As much as I wish I could snap my fingers and give everyone a scholarship, that would be fantastic, and I would probably be like one of the richest people in the world. I can't do that. It's not all up to us. Like I said, we're nationally recognized. We have a lot of great relationship with college coaches, but it really comes down to what the players are going to do. And if they want it to happen, we will do everything in our power to make sure that happens. We've been very successful. If we've had a player that wants to play in college, they have gone to play in college every single year. So keeping that is really what we want to make sure that we continue to do.
And that's a great segue for our older players that may be late 17s, early 18s. What advice would you give to the parents or players that may become frustrated during the coming season as the recruiting process takes shape for them?
Yeah. First and foremost, I think it's important that they know, I touched a little bit earlier on this, is that everyone's recruiting journey is different. We are in a program where we have players that have a God-given talent that they, yes, they work very, very hard, but their path is different. And it's not that the path that, child A versus child B, it's not a versus. They're not competing with each other. They need to, really think of what they want. And they are not, absolutely not out of the game when they're at, late 17s, late 18s. We have kids commit as late as, June, going into their freshman year of college, so things happen, things change for people. What was once important to someone might not be important anymore. But just keeping in mind that the path is different. There's no right or wrong. You don't have to keep up with the Joneses. You need to do what is best for you. And it's a family decision as much as it's the player's decision. I think that it's important that they know that it's not going to fall in their lap. No matter how good these kids are, nothing's going to fall in their lap, and they shouldn't expect it to. They need to go out there and do the marketing and do the research into making sure that where they're going to go the next 4 years is somewhere that they'll genuinely enjoy and love being at. They need to make it a second home. But like I said, the most important is that there's different paths, and they can't get caught up in what other people are doing. They need to keep their head down, focus on themselves, and it will happen. It always happens. It's never not happened. That's what I always tell them. We've never had someone that wanted to play in college not be able to play. We've always figured out a place. We've found them a home, and if it takes a little bit longer, it does. But
right. So the key
we'll be
to
here.
that, right? The key to that is our kind of mantra is that we will not give up.
No.
We will not give up on our athletes. We will make sure that they are able to pursue their volleyball careers. Absolutely.
Yep. There's a reason they're here, and there's a reason that I'm here, and Katie and Jerry and all the other staff that we have is the support system behind these athletes and behind these parents is huge. And, there's a reason they came here. There's a reason they're here and they stay here. And it's to make sure that they achieve their goals. And we will do everything in our power to make sure that that happens.
Looking forward to next month. We have a recruiting meeting scheduled for October the 8th.
Yes.
And can you share a little bit about what parents and players can expect and who should attend?
Well, it's open for everybody, so anyone is welcome to come. But all of our national and in-state travel teams, 15 and higher, need to attend. They're required to attend, one player and at least one parent. We're going to talk about the ins and outs of recruiting, what I expect as their recruiting coordinator to help make sure that they're, reaching these check marks and these milestones as they need to. We're going to talk about how to use sports recruits and our platform and what's expected there. And we're also going to go into a lot of, the NCAA rules and legislation, not everything, because that could be a bore fest for a lot of people. But just really the most important things. I think that in the past few years, there's been a lot of parents that feel like they don't understand what's allowed, what's not allowed, because there are a lot of rules that the NCAA places on prospective student athletes in colleges, and they need to know, the difference between a contact period and a dead period, and they need to understand, the college I'm talking to all of a sudden stopped talking to me, and it's not for any other reason other than there's, a dead period. So we're going to talk a lot about that kind of stuff, just so that they are fully aware of what's going on, when it should be going on, when things aren't going to be going on, and making sure that they really just have all the knowledge that they need going forward.
And I also always say that it's interesting the transition from a parent perspective of kind of representing our children, and then as the recruiting process takes shape, coaches really want to hear from the students or from the athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just mention really quickly how that goes, or the importance of that?
Yeah, for sure.
Being able to form those relationships.
Yeah, I mean, they, just to put it simply, is the parents are not going to be on the roster. They don't need to know the parents. They need to know the player. And yes, of course, there comes a time where the parents are going to come into play. And like I said, it does become a family decision. And the recruiting process is a family process. But as far as the communication between the college coach and the player, that's what it is. It's between the college coach and the player. They need to get to know that person. They need to know their personality, if it's going to mesh well with the players that they already have on their roster. And they need to know that they're going to be able to live without their parents, because their parents are not, and hopefully don't show up at college, but it's their adult life, and they need to be able to have those conversations and talk about themselves and talk about, the things that they want in their future. And it needs to be coming from the voice of the student, because like I said, they're the ones on the roster. The parents aren't going to be on the roster. There comes a point where the parents can get more engaged with the college coaches. But really it's all about what the student's going to do, because they're going to be the ones that are living there for 4 years.
That is so true.
Yep.
So true. Well, this has been just an amazing experience. I'm so thrilled that our AVA family had the opportunity to hear all the good things in store for our athletes, and
yes,
learn a lot about the many hats that you wear. We're actually going to, for sure, have additional episodes of this podcast as we move forward through the season. Again, I just want to thank everyone for joining us. Our club directors are Katie Garza and Jerry Lynch, and you just heard from Lauren Ellison, who is administration, travel, and recruiting director, as well as head coach for 16 Rocks.
Yes.
And if someone does have questions, how can they reach out to you?
They can reach out to me through email or text or phone call. Really, if there's a new way of communication, they can make it work and they can contact me. I'm open all the time. I will get back. If I don't get back immediately, I get back as soon as possible. So no one ever goes unheard of.
And that goes for parent and athlete?
Absolutely. Anybody. If you have a sibling that has a question, send them my way. I'll answer it.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, and this has been wonderful.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, enjoy your day.
Thank you.